I like telling the story about how I get to Dyersville because mainly it starts with a coin flip. Me and my wife were sitting, I'm looking at her, she's looking at me, and we're trying to figure out where we're gonna live. And I had just recently proposed to her. Originally, I am from Florida, but my wife, she grew up in Iowa, and she's like, okay, it's either Iowa or Florida. I'm like, it doesn't matter to me. I like both. And so I flipped the coin, heads Iowa, tails Florida, and it was heads. And I was like, okay, let's do it again. And I did that for about 15 minutes, and it was Iowa every single time. And at that point, you kind of have to ask yourself, is this the hand of God, or is this just, random chance? And even though I did flip the coin quite a bit, there was a part of me that was kind of hoping that it would land in Iowa, and it did. And I said, all right, well, I'll see you home. And I packed my car up and took my Buick and drove that old thing all the way up to Iowa, and I landed right here in Dyersville. When I came up to Iowa for the first time, it was one of those things where I would never forget. The day in and of itself was just a beautiful day. We were walking, and people were just saying hi, and they were so cheerful and they were so engaging, and it was just something that stuck with me, because for the first time, something that I only saw in Hallmark movies, something that I only read about in books where, the author's trying to really paint the picture of just down home America, really came to life. And I remember the first night, my wife had fallen asleep, and I opened up the sliding glass door, and I walked outside, and I looked up, and I saw stars for the first time. And I had not experienced that before. Living in the city, people are all over the place. You're hearing 5 or 6 different languages being spoken and all this stuff, and there's just so much noise and chaos constantly. And then you remove yourself from that, and you come here where if you just sit, there's nothing. It's just quiet, and you can actually hear birds. And that, for me, was the moment where I felt, okay, I want this all the time. When I showed up here and I had nothing, people did not care that I had nothing. They saw me for a human being, and they treated me as a human being. Everyone asked my name. Everyone asked who I was and whether I lived in town or didn't live in town. And they were curious about why I made the move from Florida to here and whether I was enjoying myself and if I needed help. Being able to have that connection with someone is the biggest part of this community. And because of that, you kind of build this idea of family. And you're plugged into that greater family within Dyersville. My brother, who's a priest, I was like, hey, you should come up and visit. And that just became a thing. Every year, twice a year, he was coming up. Him and I sat down, and I said, okay, listen, your time up here is kind of coming to a close, and you need to make a decision one way or the other. Are you going back or staying here? He's just like, I don't think I can leave here. I really don't think I can leave here. And so I'm like, okay, yeah. So you see what I see? He's like, yeah, no, I do. Having my brother here, it's a wonderful thing. And I don't think I was ever without my family to a certain degree, because the community was so loving and so caring. But now him and I got to share that bond of yeah, now we have this. Raising a family here it's been really fun, because the community as a whole kind of joined in. And I don't think people knew how much of an impact they played in my life, or even in my family's life at that stage, because without that help, I don't know where we would have been. And just being honest, I don't look like everybody else, And I don't have the deep heritage, but people here accept me for who I am. They know me as Gio. They know me as the guy who wears the suits all the time. They know my family, and to me, that's what matters. I'm able to have community members know my kids' names and know about them, and like genuinely have a vested interest in their success. And these are things that are you priceless. You can't like, I can't trade that for anything. It is a difficult reality when you are ostracized from people constantly. And that's what I've had for a majority of my life. And then you have a complete stranger that comes up to you and knows you by name, and they know your daughter's name, and they know your wife's name, and they want to help you. And so I take it personally if someone says something poorly about Dyersville, because I've lived here, and I've seen people give of themselves for my family. They didn't look at me or look at my daughter or look at my wife and our family unit as being fundamentally different. They just viewed us as a young couple that was just working our way up and trying to figure out life and all that stuff. And they wrapped their arms around us and said, yeah, we'll help. When you remove a lot of the distraction and the chaos and the noise and you slow things down, you really allow yourself to see who you are, and you get to have a greater appreciation for those around you. When I was in Dyersville, things that I would tell people in theory, I got to experience. I can be in an environment at peace, and I don't have to work that hard for it. And it's something that is very unique and very specific to this place. And so, like, how do you not fall in love with that?